It's a good day. It's a big day. It's a good and big day here at the Voice of College Football. It always is a good day at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Of course, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Here's the deal this week. Of course, for the past 3 weeks, we've had a late night call-in show that has preempted the afternoon show one time per week. So basically, you make the determination on a late night call-in show each and every week. It's up to you folks whenever you want it. It's been on Wednesday. Been on Friday a couple times. Late night call-in show that is all yours each and every week. And we do appreciate that you care enough to say, Mark, the late night call-in shows always worked well in the past. Let's bring them back. And so we have for the past 3 or 4 weeks with the late night call-in shows. This week, however, we're going to do it in a special variety. We are going late night on Thursday for the members of Patreon and YouTube. So YouTube and Patreon members, please stop by on Thursday night. We will have a little closed meeting, members only. And if you would like to take part, all you have to do is obviously sign up to be a member of the Voice of College Football, either on YouTube or Patreon. Either one. Don't need to do both. One or the other will suffice. And we're going to do that on Thursday night, I believe at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Sounds like a good time to do it. We're going to get to the Michigan football situation with the suspension there. We are going to be joined by Carter B. on LSU and the SEC a little bit later as well. Let's take the phone lines here. We got the real MVP stopping by.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this beautiful Monday afternoon?
I'm doing well. It's beautiful here, so I hope it is for most people out there.
It is for me too, Mark. You know, there's 3 things I would say guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and Michigan being punished for cheating. This is just an annual trend at this point. You know, this is like Thanksgiving or Christmas. You just see it on the calendar. Oh, just penciling in for the offseason. What are we going to talk about? Oh, Michigan got cheating. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they get caught for cheating?
It's kind of a surprise holiday, different than Christmas and Thanksgiving, where, of course, we've got that date on the calendar, but it's kind of a surprise holiday. We know it's coming. We just don't know when.
Exactly. Mark, all those people specifically of Amazing Blue variety saying, oh, this is no big deal. Oh, well, the 2023 is all it's going to do. Then 2024, it's all it's going to do. Mark, the NCAA still has some teeth. As much as people don't want to act like they have any teeth. They banished Kentucky for their 2021 season after NIL. I think Tennessee may have gotten hit with some violations. Some schools have gotten hit with violations after the NIL thing. And this is just the latest school that thought they could get away with cheating and got hit hard. And they're still getting hit because of their arrogance about the situation. They thought with their elitist attitude, being in the 1% of college football and institutions across the United States of America, they were above everybody else, and they're being knocked a few pegs, and you love to see it.
Taking the Michigan side on this to a certain extent, not necessarily the Michigan side, but certainly in a point of argument would be, well, if this is going to be the end-all be-all, which I've not read the articles, I've not gone through them. We're going to go through them in a second, so I don't know what's been stated by the NCAA in regards to an ongoing investigation or if this is everything that they have. But the argument on the other side would be that our coach gets suspended for 2 games. We should be able to win those 2 games, and then we just march on from there. So it's kind of showing that maybe the NCAA, to your initial point, yeah, for as much as we make fun of the NCAA, and rightfully so, and for as much bite as it has lost, and it loses every court battle, and at this point is being just kind of thrown into the corner from that standpoint, because they had never had a legal leg to stand on concerning how they wanted to continue to structure college football. When it comes to discipline, this is still the governing body that disciplines the sport, and they still do, and everyone still abides by those rulings. So they have been reduced to no other than just a disciplinary committee. But in that realm, in that category, what they say goes.
You know how much of this punishment was instituted by the NCAA?
I don't know where you're leading with that.
I'll give you a hint. It's 0%. This is Michigan front-loading the NCAA's findings. So what this is we're scared. The NCAA caught us. We're going to self-punish ourselves. That way, when the NCAA hammer drops, it's not as bad as it could have been because we're showing, hey, we understand we messed up. That's what's happening here. And by the way, Mark, there's a holistic irony storytelling thing that Connor Stallions got caught cheating at Central Michigan game, and now Michigan's head coach is going to be suspended facing Central Michigan. It's nice how that's a full circle moment. Don't you agree?
Yeah, those are fun when those come up. And again, you're bringing some things to light that I'm not aware of because, again, I heard the news at whatever time it broke this morning, and that's all I heard. I did not read up on it, investigate it. I was going to do that right here.
Yeah, this was all Michigan trying to. And by the way, how sad is it that Michigan is scared of like the 13th best team in the SEC in Oklahoma? I mean, like, imagine if Alabama said, "Hey, we're going to Minnesota. We don't want our head coach to spend it against Minnesota on the road." Like, I'm sorry, but that's just such a weak look for your team. Like Oklahoma's problem over the last since Brent Venables, they're just not even good. They're just not a good football team. Now their program historically is good, but I have no confidence under Brent Venables this year. They're even going to go 7-5.
Yeah, I would agree with that. However, it is a road game, and I know they're going to Nebraska. So the self-imposed is Central Michigan at home, and then they go on a trip to Nebraska. It is kind of an odd pairing of games, but I think it was a pretty wise choice by Michigan. I'd have to look at the rest of the schedule. And obviously, they don't want this hanging over their heads deep into the season, even if, let's say, games 7 and 8 were the easiest games on the schedule. They wouldn't want to wait that long. So they probably tried to get it out of the way early, but wanted Sharon Moore there to go to Oklahoma and unveil the great offense that Michigan has in recent years, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Mark, this is me maybe being way too simple-minded for people, but in my opinion, if you get caught doing something cheating in a particular season, how come future seasons are impacted by that? Like Bryce Underwood did nothing for the cheating. In my opinion, the 2023 season is what should be impacted by the cheating. Clearly, the NCAA and Michigan are going to come to some ruling that Michigan cheated, and clearly some consequence is going to happen. So, in my opinion, the consequences should be for the seasons that they cheated.
Oh, I have always had my talking points lined up in what is wrong with all of this. And this goes back to every NCAA violation, whether it seems to be a bit frivolous or whether it's the worst thing in the world. It's typically they're doing a better job of at least hunting down the coaches involved. And at this point, obviously, that the man in charge, Jim Harbaugh, is making $1 zillion in the NFL, so it doesn't affect him. But college football at least has gotten to the point with the NCAA in recent years where they at least are targeting the right people and trying to discipline them. But in regards to records and players and all of that, yeah, that's poorly done. I could march through a bunch of incidents in the past where it could be applied much better. There's not a perfect way to do it, that's for sure, but there is a more effective and logical way to do it.
Yeah, I think if you cheat in a particular season, that season should be affected. And if the head coach is still on the team or on in college football, then that coach is to be suspended for X amount of games. If they've left for the NFL or for whatever, they should have to serve the suspension when they get back into college football. That's just my opinion, though, when it comes to that. Do you generally agree with that premise?
Oh, yeah, I agree. And again, I was a little buttoned up more so in the past in regards to how I would have, maybe I should dig up these old videos because I had it pretty well lined up in terms of my strategy, my approach of how I would deal with these situations. And it seemed to be, again, not perfect. Not saying I get the perfect disciplinary approach, but more logical, more targeted at the individuals involved. And I actually think that there have been things done in the past 10 to 20 years in college football where a lot more serious things should have been done overall, but wins and losses not impacting, the Penn State situation. Perfect example. I'm not taking
Yeah,
any wins,
yeah, that's just an untouchable situation.
Yeah.
That whole era should be removed at a minimum. I mean,
Well,
that was
I'm not
disgusting
touching
and
wins or
wrong.
losses if I'm
Yeah, I know. Well, that's in the hands of God now for that
because the
judgment.
players have nothing to do with that. The
Right.
players, you're penalizing players that had nothing to do with it. Penalize the horrific people, starting with Jerry Sandusky, of course. So vacating wins and messing around with players' records when they had nothing to do with it, that's just.
Well, see, I don't view it that way. I view it as it's the university record. Nobody cares that Tom Brady, his college record. Nobody cares about Patrick Mahomes' record in college. Like, I don't think that your record in college is meaningful to the player since they've already played in the games and done the festivities. I think it's completely irrelevant. Like Kentucky for our 2021 season, it got completely vacated, not for cheating, but for improper NIL payments. How many of those players do you think actually care that their 2021 season in which they went 10-3 was vacated? I would say close to zero.
Yeah, I still I don't like it, and I think you're kind of going to the upper crust there just slightly with Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes. I don't really think that most players can really fathom what that career looks like. When they're working an insurance job when they're 28 years old, and their glory days were playing linebacker for Penn State and winning a couple bowl games.
Yeah, I mean, they still can talk about as if they played in those games, and they could show the highlights of them doing well in those games. You can never take that away.
Sure.
But if you get caught cheating and your program gets caught cheating, there has to be some level of accountability. Listen, I'm very clear on this, okay? If you get caught cheating in a season, those wins for that season should be removed. It happened to Louisville in 2013. They lost a national championship, and they didn't got caught cheating on the court. They got cheating off the court with recruiting violations. So I don't see, in my opinion, in terms of integrity of the game, this is way worse because this is actually attacking the integrity of the sport itself. I mean, especially with like gambling and stuff nowadays, if the question of these outcomes is questioned at all, it can impact literally billions of dollars.
So does that extend to recruiting rankings? Recruiting violations?
Yes, it should. It absolutely should. There should be deterrence going forward and punishment on the back end. I don't understand what's so difficult about this. I don't think the solution is, hey, one school cheated, therefore everybody should be allowed to cheat. I think we should have a governing structure that enforces rules going backward and forward. Unfortunately, because the NCAA has lost so much of their teeth, they can't do that. Now, Mark, I know this isn't a political thing, but this ties a little bit into politics. I'm assuming you saw the president, Trump. He was at Alabama giving the commencement speech, and he met Nick Saban and Tommy Tuberville to discuss NIL. Did you see that?
I know that he met with Nick Saban about NIL. I heard nothing about Tommy Tuberville. I didn't know what the circumstances were, so I do not know that he gave the commencement speech.
Yeah, he gave the commencement speech, and while he was there, they were discussing NIL reportedly. So I think we're actually going to have Congress, because it seems like it's got some actual legs going with it, and it's got some political capital behind it. We're going to actually have the NCAA is going to have some governing teeth. And I think Michigan wants to get ahead of this before the NCAA actually has legislative antitrust authority to actually punish them harder. What do you think about that theory?
Well, I think if the NCAA is going to continue to have any power in this sport, I would love to see a complete reset. I would like to see a complete break from the past and say, okay, if we truly believe that what the NCAA was established to do is valid, and I do, I think that the foundation of the NCAA and what it's supposed to be doing as a governing body of college athletics, and as supposed to be a visionary that's looking forward and not just responding to situations. And again, it's not just a disciplinary committee. That I have no issue with the NCAA as a concept. It's that the execution of the NCAA and whomever has been in charge during different eras has not been consistent, has not been reasonable, has not been forward thinking. This is the biggest example of it currently is obviously NIL. When we're basically confronted with a situation with Johnny Manziel in 2013 that has NIL written all over it, and we know that this is coming, and there's nothing done for 10 years, then that's a perfect example. But and so the problem, who knows what the problem is? It's like a lot of bureaucracies out there. There are inherent problems. So if somebody would come in and say, we're going to go back to the original documents of the NCAA, why it was established, and we're going to clean house, and we're going to either remove everyone or we're going to review each person's resume, interview them, reestablish them, or kick them to the curb, and we're going to reset the NCAA and it's going to be what it was set out to be, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't know how realistic that is going forward.
Why is it not realistic?
I think it's pretty easy to build up these bureaucracies. I think it's very hard to tear them down to the ground. I think it's almost impossible. And you can look to the federal government as an example for evidence of how hard it is just to tear down one little percentage of the bureaucracy. I mean, there people will be fighting and clawing to say their job is important, when in actuality it's not important.
Yeah, well, for as large as the organization is we're talking about, it obviously is minute compared to the federal government.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would all depend on the people that would be put in charge of reviewing the NCAA and whether we could get them to stick around as a transition to unveiling and empowering the new and improved NCAA.
Yeah, and that's only going to be done through legislation or antitrust exemption. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because otherwise the NCAA will continue to do its little part in this sport, and the rest of the sport will just run on momentum and under the table deals and run like it is right now, which is kind of like 15% organized and 85% just whoever doesn't get caught or there's not a rule in play for this. Yeah.
No, I got you. Now, Mark, if there's any Central Michigan fans listening, if there that one soul out there, please go to the Michigan game and dress up as Connor Stallions. I please do. I hope every Central Michigan fan that goes to the game just dresses up as Connor Stallions, and we get like 2,000 Connor Stallions. I think that would be so funny and so great to see, Mark.
That would be fun, but they would kind of get lost in the corner of Michigan Stadium. But it would be worth the effort, possibly.
Oh, yeah. Hey, they can get some intel because they need it, But anyway, Mark, it's good seeing you. I guess I'll talk to you about this when it happens again next year.
There you go. Thanks, Darrell. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
We are going to continue to talk college football. And of course, we got our special guest here, Carter, Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL. Carter, what's going on today?
I had to come back for the big news, man. They win a big portal battle to get AJ Halsey, and LSU is now a playoff or bust type of team now.
Yeah, AJ Halsey is quite a player, because here's a guy that despite playing on one of the worst teams in the Big 12 at 4-8 at Houston, obviously had people take notice, like 75 tackles and 13 passes defense. I think he had 5 picks, and obviously he showed up. And, anytime I see a low-rung player from a low-rung team, I should say, make first team all conference, obviously he had to catch some attention. So, yeah, this is a guy that's the number one safety in the portal, and LSU made it happen. And he's not the only one. So, yeah, LSU is going all in. Brian Kelly's going all in. And, yeah, it's I don't want to call it a make or break season. Brian Kelly's most likely going to be here in 2026 and continue to recruit and build, but it's a huge season.
Yeah, and it's a season where Brian Kelly will not self-suspend himself for game 3 and game 4 of the season conveniently, because I see a few Michigan fans in the chat. I have to troll you after what the two fan bases have been through over the past year. But, you're right, Mark. This is obviously a big-time transfer, and on top of all of that, we are getting ready for yet another season opener, where LSU, of course, has lost every single one since the 2019 LSU season. And as fun as Texas and Ohio State is, both of those teams went to a playoff last year. They both won playoff games last year. Obviously, Alabama, Florida State's going to be a fun season opener. But to me, LSU and Clemson is the sexiest one. Because I think Texas and Oklahoma, no matter who wins or loses, they'll have enough juice to still make the college football playoff. I think both those teams will be number 1 and number 2 in the nation, respectively. But, man, I really do think Clemson is a real deal from a neutral perspective. And I think LSU is a team that has one major weakness, Mark, and that is the offensive line. And that is a position that Brian Kelly has always been the strongest alongside tight end. And LSU is replacing all of them outside of the center. So of those 6, 5 of them are being replaced. And of those 5, Mark, they all played a lot of snaps. 4 of them played 800 plus snaps last year. The 5th would have if he didn't get hurt. So this is going to be a brand new O-line, basically, and a new tight end room. So we'll see how it works out.
So with AJ Halsey coming in, we are expected to see a certain standard of LSU defensive back. Obviously, this is an argument for DBU all time and very recently in history, but it's not been the secondary that we expect in recent years. Have they made other changes? Do you see not just Halsey, but there being a return to standard in the DB room?
Man, I hope so. It has been straight peach emoji, straight ass in the secondary. I mean, it's been tough. And when you talk to former players who made DBU what it is today, it frustrates them because obviously there is a lot of history there. Mark, they should be better there. Obviously with Halsey coming in, but it's not just him. They have 2 other high-profile transfers in that secondary, and the other is a top 100 recruit in Jakeem Jackson. So I think those other 2, Tamarcus Cooley, who's coming over from NC State, and Mansour Delane, who is to me still the best of all the transfers. I really do think Delane is that good. He's a top 50 NFL prospect. He would have been drafted this year. The fact that he decided to stay in college and come be a part of DBU tells you everything you need to know. So it's funny because it is Death Valley versus Death Valley in week 1, and it is LSU versus Clemson, a rematch of a national championship game. I know, Mark, you and your audience love college football history and rematches, but honestly, there's going to be so much ACC flavor on LSU's team. It's basically going to be an ACC versus ACC battle. So we'll see how those transfers hold up, and hopefully we get a legendary game.
We got Carter here from litany of channels. He's got the trifecta for you. He's got it covered. He breaks down the film, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL, and of course, the original Power Hour LSU. Is there a guy on this defense who, talking about what LSU typically brings to the table, a guy that's a game wrecker? You know, the Harold Perkins when he was unleashed his first couple years, that kind of guy that we could expect to dominate a game from the edge, or, that type of player.
Yeah, stay in the ACC again. Patrick Payton, a transfer coming in from Florida State, who's given LSU issues in their 2 matchups, and obviously he had a bit of a down year. And he's got a lot to prove, Mark. I mean, there are so many in Florida State circles that say he was just a byproduct of playing alongside Brayton Fix and Jared Verse. And, a lot of defensive ends will look good if you're playing next to those 2 all-world NFL rookies. So Patrick Payton's coming in. Hopefully he's motivated, ready to go. He is the best deflector of passes at the line of scrimmage, and that's something that LSU's not really done a whole lot of. And then Jack Pyburn is the other. Both of these are defensive ends. Pyburn, Mark, as you know, college football could be a tough sport if you're at a loaded position. And Pyburn is a transfer coming in where Florida had one of the best defensive end rooms in the country. And Pyburn wanted to go somewhere where he can, spread his wings. He was a really good run defender, and they would take him out a lot on passing downs. He wanted to be more of a 3-down guy. So he comes in from Florida, and Mark, based on what I've heard from people that are at practice every single day, Pyburn has arguably been LSU's best defensive player, period. He's come in, set a standard. He's got 1 year of eligibility to prove that he's NFL material. And I really do think Jack Pyburn's going to be a name. It might not be household, All-American, Will Anderson type of player. He's a different style of player than Will Anderson, but he's going to be a very good player where you're like, damn, dude, who is number 44 for LSU?
Yeah, that transfer portal move's been so long ago with the 24-hour news cycle that I almost forgot about Pyburn, because that was back in December. Now you cover the rest of the SEC and look over the whole deal. Who else is winning the offseason in the SEC?
Well, I'll tell you who's not. It's Tennessee, obviously. That to me is still the biggest story of the NIL era. And, I freaking love Tennessee fans, Mark. I had a connection to Arkansas, and I've built a huge Arkansas fan base. I have no Tennessee connections, and that fan base has welcomed me in. They've invited me to a game next year. I love Tennessee Volunteer football. I really do. So I was hurt. I was hurt when this whole ordeal happened. I know we're just always on to the next thing, and we're talking Saban and the president, and we're trying to figure out what's next. What's that next big college football story? To me, I still think that Nico story is what it is, and there is an Arkansas side of it with his brother starting this legal battle with him flipping from UCLA, going to Arkansas, now trying to get back to UCLA. And now you have a massive hole at that Tennessee quarterback position. The Appalachian transfer threw a lot of interceptions. There's just no other way around it. We did a film study on him. His name slips my mind, whatever his name is.
Joey Aguilar.
Yes, Aguilar. It was tough. It was really, really, really tough. And bad red zone turnovers is what really hurt him. And then behind him, you have George McIntyre, who is a very talented true freshman, who I think in that room right now is the most talented QB on the entire team. So that's what I would do. I would play him over Jake Merklinger at this point. I just don't think Merklinger's that. But I think going into next year, it's going to be the Joey Aguilar show. And then obviously the rest of the Tennessee Volunteer team, you'll lose James Pierce, who was up and down. You lose Norman Lott, who, many felt he was overdrafted. It doesn't matter. I mean, he was a good college football player, a gap shooter, a guy who just made play after play after play. So you lose two really good trench playmakers. And man, I love Tennessee. Mark, I don't know how you feel. How do you feel about them going into next year? I mean, are you completely out on them with so many question marks now?
Well, I was obviously intrigued to see what kind of improvement Nico would show us, because on one hand, he was an average SEC quarterback. On the other hand, he was a redshirt freshman. So it was his first season, and the TD to pick ratio was strong. He didn't have a chance against Ohio State. He pretty much had to tuck the ball and run, and that's all they had on offense without Dylan Sampson against maybe the best defense in the country. He didn't have the best stats, as you well know, against the better competition on the schedule. So again, I was just looking to see, for a guy that has that much talent and can really wing it downfield, he's got the arm to wing it downfield. He never showed much confidence or decisiveness to regularly stretch the field and try to take those kind of shots. That Josh Heupel, it just seemed like he left a situation that, and I'm going to go and point the finger at his father and his agent, that why are you leaving one of the best offensive minds in the game? You're in a good situation. You're coming off a playoff. And obviously he takes like a 40% pay cut, and he's stuck at UCLA, and he's going to play in front of 30,000 people at the Rose Bowl. Well, he'll play in front of like 60,000 Wisconsin fans and Minnesota fans or whoever travels every week. But just, yeah, that's what I wanted to see was Nico in Josh Heupel's offense under that tutelage for another season to see if he made that typical year 1 to year 2 move.
And before I leave here, I think the big thing for me, Mark, is in the SEC. So let's go back to obviously the best year of my life as a college football fan, which was 2019 LSU. You look at the SEC then, and there were so many young quarterbacks well over their skis, right? There was, Bo Nix at Auburn. He wasn't what he was at Oregon. And, he had to start. And then you had Garrett Schrader, who turned into like a decent starter, but he was a true freshman who had to start. And the list goes on and on. Basically, not great quarterback play throughout the conference. Now, with the transfer portal, every team has like a decent quarterback or a quarterback you would consider to be good, right? Let's take a look at Oklahoma last year, a team that I also cover really closely. They had the worst offense I think I've ever seen in the SEC relative to expectation, right? Oklahoma should never have a bad offense. If there's one team in college football that should never have a bad offense, it's the Sooners, right? Historically, they, the Heismans, all of it, they should never be what they were last year. And with the portal, you could go buy John Mateer, you can go buy Jaden Ott, and boom, that's arguably the best quarterback RB duo in 1 year. You can just go get it. And now everybody's good at QB. I mean, there's really not one that I would say, God, dude, that dude is just not good. Now, there's a lot of flawed QBs. Garrett Nussmeier is the best QB. He has his flaws. We don't know what Arch Manning is and whatever. But while we're trying to guess who the best quarterback is, whether it's Sellers or Lagway, the big story is week after week after week, you're going up against somebody good. And it used to be in yesteryear, guys like Les Miles, they can get by because they're playing ass at QB for that week. So now that that's the case, the teams that are disciplined, the teams that are able to go week to week with their head, on a swivel, the teams that take scouting reports very seriously and really study the opposing team's QB and offense are the teams that'll be successful. So, and that's tough to do in this current day. So to me, that's the biggest change I've seen in the Southeastern Conference.
Carter, tell the good folks where to find you and what you got going on.
Yeah, Power Hour NFL. If you're an NFL fan, we're doing a lot of Tom Brady breakdowns from his Super Bowls, but we're all about college football here on the Voice of College Football. I do want to shout out two people in the. Can I shout out two people in the chat really quickly, Mark, if that's okay? Yeah. So the first is a super chatter, my guy Jackson. I went on his show, I think, a year ago, and we had the time of our lives. I like Coach Jackson Johnson, and yes. I would love to be on Paul Feinbaum again. And I also want to shout out Minnie Hunt. She said, I like Carter's background. Take note, Mark. I love your background, Mark.
Well, yeah, it's a bit drab. And Minnie and I have already discussed this. Minnie's on record for saying that my background's ugly. I got it, Minnie. Thank you. Minnie. Appreciate that. Thanks for calling me out in front of everyone. That couldn't have been a private conversation, could it? No.
Hey, okay. Look, I wasn't trying to call you up because I was just pushing because I like your backdrop.
Well, the purples. Well, the backdrop used to be much nicer, but I got my LEDs back here.
Okay,
but in the middle of the day, they just don't have much impact.
Yeah. Well, what's funny, man? I used to have like a very elaborate backdrop, and people hated me when I took it down because I just like the cleaner look.
Oh, so that is it now, because I am used to the more elaborate backdrop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would have my card collection, all kinds of stuff back here.
Yeah.
But I'm a wedding DJ, so these are just like my wedding DJ lights back here. So Minnie, if you ever see my live stream on your YouTube algorithm, please join the chat and tell everyone that my backdrop is dope, because I've gotten so much hate of that. It's actually sitting over here, a Joe Burrow painting with Jamar Chase, and I had a Jaden Daniels painting and stuff like that. But Minnie, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Mark, for letting me use your platform to share the good word. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Cheers.
our buddy Carter stopping by to break down LSU. And, that reminds me that I saw a backdrop one time. This was about the coolest thing I've seen. Speaking of which, this is driving me nuts. Give me just a second here. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be right. Think about any Apple product out there. It's like clean, slick. It's always white, black, and obviously the silver with just about anything that you purchase. The box, nothing on it, maybe just the icon, the brand name. So I saw this guy and he had a set that just had like, I don't want to call it a glass table because it wasn't transparent, but it was like this slick white table that looked like glass. It was just so sheen. And I think he had a really cool looking black mic that was just deep, deep black. And he had some kind of a glow effect behind him that was just kind of a silver. And I might be mixing up the colors. It might have been a silver desk or whatever. And it was just nothing. You just like sat there in the middle of nothing, but everything just looked pristine. That all comes down to camera and lighting. Those are the two most important things. And since I am not using a camera, number one, since the camera's sitting right there, and then the lighting, I've never been a lighting guy. Not a lighting guy. And I was surrounded by lighting experts at ESPN, and I should have roped some of them in. I did at times, but so we got a lot to work on here. And all right, folks, we do appreciate you here. And we have yet to, I don't even know how long we're going to be on. We've been on for 40 minutes. I think we only got about 20 left. We'll see. Maybe we'll go beyond that. We have not even touched this Michigan story. I don't even know what's going on except for they've suspended themselves or their head coach for 2 games, and but have not dived into the story. Again, other things going on. Did not prep myself for this. I thought we're just going to work through this together. We'll read through the story. I'll make my response, but we've had a couple calls. And of course, we had Carter lined up to join us to talk some LSU and the SEC. And we got another caller coming in here. Look at this. Hello, sir. What's going on?
What's up? I know about the suspension. I do know that this is what they've been waiting for. The Buckeyes, the Lions, and the Spartans. They've been waiting for this, but this is not. But to me, this the 2 games of suspension is similar. It's similar to the game the 6-game suspension that Jim Harbaugh had but slightly different.
Well, your team's got a great track record of winning these games, so maybe you should just suspend coaches left and right because you win them all. So you're 6-0. So
but some of these schools, they would some of these smaller schools in every conference, but sometimes the small schools, but they don't make the same amount of money, and they would rely on the bigger schools. If they get caught cheating and they had to pay a fine, the smaller schools, they're gonna get mad about it because they part of the bonus money. They might not get because the big schools, they gotta pay a big fine for going against the rule book. Some of these rules, some of these rules are still in the uh, the rule book. They probably were put in the rule book. I say about 20 to the 50 years ago, and so and half of those rules they probably they probably outdated rules.
You think they're outdated because they're old? We should get rid of those rules.
No, not not get see those rules that they kind of I'm not saying the rules technically the rules they not really but out but they did but today's college the football those rules those rules when they was made they wasn't those rules they wasn't really designed for today's college
Gotcha.
the football. So that's what I'm trying
Well, I think you
to
make a good
say.
point. Yeah, I definitely think you make a good point in a lot of ways, and I know you love your maize and blue. And as it stands, it's not the end of the world, and they're trying to get ahead of this by imposing some self sanctions. But I do appreciate the call, sir. You're always welcome.
Yeah, and another 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 thing, like like today's coaches and staff they should not get punished get punished for something that happened a long time ago, and most of those players or coaches they often the NFL or they just join their retirement days.
That's a good point. Again, we appreciate you being here, man. Always a good to see you, and give us a call anytime.
Okay.
All right, let's get into this story here. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. I wasn't going to argue with our buddy Thunder Redmond there. We certainly wanted to give him his say as a Michigan fan. Let's dive into this story here. Let's see what's going on. All right. Sharon Moore expected to be suspended 2 games. Self-imposed sanctions by the university for the Connor Stallions. We're still talking about this knucklehead 2 years later. Crazy. The suspensions will be for Michigan's 3rd and 4th games, week 3 and 4, Central Michigan, Nebraska. We'll have to look at the schedule, but again, they open the season with New Mexico at home, on the road at Oklahoma. They mentioned in the ESPN article, this is Sharon Moore's alma mater. Should I say it? Should I say it? Should I say it? Would Sharon Moore dare steal signs from his alma mater? Would he do that? Okay. I couldn't resist. So, the second-year head coach, who, by the way, is the 43rd best coach in college football, was the offensive coordinator in 2023 when Stallions, a former Michigan staffer, first was accused of operating an advanced scouting operation by having friends and family attend games. I can't imagine asking friends and family to, okay. And videotape the sideline play signals of future Wolverine opponents. Stallions was alleged to have used that tape to decipher their play calling signals. We know all this was, of course, against the rules. And, you know, we've debated this a million times. I probably have 100 hours of content on this topic. So excuse me if I'm bored to death. in reciting all of this that we've talked about a million times. August 2024 notice of allegations. NCAA cited Michigan for 11 violations, 6 of which were deemed level 1, the most serious. The school and the NCAA are working toward a resolution. So this is where we stand here. So this thing's not over. Michigan is self-imposed. And this is what's been done in recent years. I'm thinking that this has only been done maybe in the last 20 years of college football, where somebody had the bright idea one time to say, you know what, this doesn't look too good for us, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting. We might as well show in good faith that we will self-impose. We know we did something wrong, but maybe we can send a message to say we really self-policed here and reviewed this entire situation, and we believe that, yes, we had wrongdoing here, and therefore we are self-imposing to show our good faith effort to clean things up and acknowledge our mistakes and our transgressions in this. And that's, we have determined this should be the extent of the discipline. Obviously, that's typically not the case, but it has set a precedent out there that this is typically now done. I love this deleted text messages. This just reeks of governmental fraud and corruption. More suspension ties back to allegations that he deleted a thread. And I know there's more to it. And I got to tell you, at the time that it all came down, I knew what the defense for that was. But I can tell you that when my head hit the pillow that night, all this drained out of my ear. The allegations, or the alleged deletions, came in October of 23, on the same day that media reports revealed Stalions was leading an effort to capture the play calling signal of future opponents. According to a draft of the notice of allegations obtained by ESPN last year, the texts were recovered via device imaging, and Moore subsequently produced them to enforcement staff. That's right, we read through all those, or at least the ones that became public that were quite amusing. Moore is accused of committing a level 2 violation. According to the draft, Moore was suspended for Michigan's 2023 season opener against East Carolina, part of self-imposed penalties by the university. In a different, the other recruiting violations NCAA case that involved most notably Harbaugh. The structure of this penalty, coming in the third and fourth games of the season, gives Moore a chance to coach at Oklahoma, where he played offensive guard during the 2006 and 7 seasons. A source confirmed to ESPN that the Committee on Infractions hearing in Michigan's Stalions case will be on June 6th and 7th. Sports Illustrated first reported the dates earlier on Monday. There's no guarantee that the COI will accept the self-imposed punishment for Moore as the full extent of the punishment. I think not. They could levy additional games to the suspension. Let's go back to the conversation we had with the real MVP. Now, this penalty, would seem ridiculous to most college football fans who aren't even on the side of Michigan as Michigan fans, or on the rival side, whether that's Ohio State or Michigan State, just college football fans. Because I think we have seen cheating so much in professional and college sports that we think, well, let's try to figure out how much did the cheating impact. There are basic 2 lanes in the thought process. One that seems to be the overriding, and I think this tells us a lot about society these days, is not to focus so much on the hideous nature of cheating. It's more about, let's try to figure out how much the cheating impacted what happened. And I get that. I understand that. I understand that viewpoint. But is that really the viewpoint to have? Why should we be trying to determine how much impact the cheating had? If you cheated, there's only one reason that anybody cheats in anything. There's only one reason. That's because there was a fear that they would not win the contest. That's the only reason to do it. There's no other reason to do it. None. Zero. And I still can't get past that Connor Stalions was bringing in this information going back to 2021, correct? 2021, 2022, first half of 2023. And if this this strategy, well, this cheating, trying to cover it up, trying to make it sound good, the strategy, this cheating, if this was not effective, let's understand that these are highly paid college football coaches that are paranoid, that dissect every minute that is spent on a practice field or in a film room or anything to make sure that it's productive. And if that cheating was not effective, what would Harbaugh have done? What would the defensive coordinators? I believe there were two during this time. There was McDonald, there was Clinkscale, correct? Were the two DCs during these 3 seasons. What would they have done? Well, they would have said, you're wasting our time. You know, you are wasting our time with this information. It's not helping. This is the point that I can't get past, and I have yet to have anybody debate with me on this point that has convinced me in any way or even moved me this much on that point. This is the only reason you cheat. And then if the cheating, whether it was initiated by Stalions and then accepted by the coaching staff, or it was directed by the coaching staff to Stalions, because again, here's a tough one to get past. The dude's LinkedIn profile, his resume just reeked of expertise in espionage. And maybe that's a common thing in college football. I don't know. To steal signs legally. Let's understand there's nothing wrong with stealing signs. The other team's not smart enough to figure out that they need to hide signs and figure out a more complicated system, then that's their fault. There's nothing wrong with stealing signs. Always thought it was stupid in baseball when pitchers hit batters for stealing signs or base runners and all of that business. Hey, if your signs suck, that's too bad. But we're talking about a completely different situation here in which there was pre-scouting leading into the games. That was the, I don't want to call it illegal. That was the against the rules nature of this type of scouting. So if you're the University of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, you know who you hired here. And number two, again, he would have done it for 3 weeks. And then if this was not effective, he would have done it for 3 weeks. And then any defensive coordinator or head coach would have said, knock it off. You're wasting our time. We need you to do other things. So it was effective. There's precedent in the previous Michigan case for the COI to disagree with the proposal for a negotiated resolution that the NCAA staff had agreed to. It had been widely expected that the COI would accept the 4-game suspension to start the 2023 season. Michigan ended up imposing a 3-game ban on Harbaugh, and the NCAA later suspended Harbaugh for a full year after he left for the NFL. The distinction in Harbaugh's penalty and the one Michigan is planning to self-impose with more comes with practice time. Okay, that's good. He's not going to be the head coach. It's not going to be a situation where before Harbaugh, his suspension for the Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State games at the conclusion of 2023 were just for game day, and he was with the team. Apparently, this suspension that Michigan is self-imposing includes practice time. So maybe it doesn't include like get off campus, Urban Meyer style in 2018, see you for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're gone. And that's a key distinguishing point here. Sherman Moore's still on campus, still working, still meeting with coaches and so forth, but cannot go to practice, apparently, is the self-imposed penalty. Harbaugh was allowed to coach practice, as we just mentioned. Okay. Because of an NCAA rule change in January of 24, Moore will not be able to coach and practice for the game weeks of the games in the school self-imposed suspension. Okay. That rule expanded the suspension for coaches to include all athletics activities between contests rather than just the contests themselves. I wonder if that includes meetings. What do you folks think? What do we got in the chat here? I think that Michigan pretty much went about this the way that everybody else goes about it. As I stated, this is customary conduct from these schools, is to try to get ahead of this and hope that the NCAA says, yeah, that's good. But also knowing that the NCAA is going to show itself to be weak if they just fully accept it. So let's say the NCAA believes this penalty is sufficient. They're still going to come back with something to show that they have some muscle in this, and they're not going to accept anything. So they're going to add something to it. Now, how much they add to it, we don't know. George says, I have a hard time believing they're going to take away a national championship from anybody, but we will see. And I agree with that. I have a difficult time thinking that there's a national championship on the line for a lot of reasons. And some of those have nothing to do with what should be the judgment, or some of those have nothing to do with what should be reviewed and what should be accepted. Because think of this. Let's say it was determined, this is that bad, and these games shouldn't count, and these wins shouldn't count. They should be taken off. And there's a lot of things that are so incongruent here. One would be, we're going to penalize. So the way this played out, if you're not a Michigan fan or didn't follow this, is that Michigan won 15 consecutive football games. They won 12 in the regular season. They didn't have their coach for the first 3 games. They had a suspension for Jim Harbaugh, of course. And then at the end of the year, the Big Ten suspended Jim Harbaugh for 3 games. And so there was punishment for what was going on by the Big Ten late in the season and by the NCAA early in the season. So if the NCAA comes in after the fact and says, we're going to vacate, well, it's usually been an all or nothing situation. Unless somebody can correct me on this, it's been an all or nothing situation in regards to vacating wins, that the NCAA typically says, you did wrong. It affected games. It affected outcomes. Therefore, we're taking away all your wins. Ask Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, 2011 and 12. Ask Jim Tressel, Ohio State, 2010, etc. Penn State. There's all sorts of examples out there. All sorts of examples. And so your 10-2 season becomes a 0-2 season, basically. You got to vacate the wins. I don't recall a time in which the NCAA has ever said, we're gonna take 5 wins away from you. Not all 12. We're going to take 5 away from, because the determination has been either it's cheating to the degree or whatever the violation. I'm not just talking about Michigan here, I'm talking about any of these situations where there's been vacated wins, that the NCAA has made the determination either that this is an all or nothing deal, that the violation, the transgression affected the entire season or it didn't. So they're not trying to determine, okay, let's cut it somewhere in the middle and take away 6 wins. And even if they did that, what 6 wins would they be? Well, it would make sense to a certain extent that they would take away Michigan's early season wins because, of course, Connor Stalions was fired. And then Michigan proceeded to win at least the final 3 games of the season. Maybe it was the final 4 games of the regular season. And so those were deemed to be clean. And so let's say the NCAA ruled that. They said, okay, well, you got rid of this guy. You fired him. He was off the staff. You were no longer cheating at this point, and therefore we're going to take 8 of your 12 wins away. So you're the national champions, and you went 4-8. Well, that obviously makes no sense whatsoever. So they're kind of in a bind when it comes to the way they've enacted vacated wins in the past versus what that would do to the season. What national championship teams have we had that have been in a like situation? I guess we've got the Reggie Bush USC situation. But that, So that has to be an all or nothing determination. And then also to George's point there, and others who say there's no way they're taking away a national championship. Just I don't know, you look at it one of 2 ways. You take away a national championship and you're basically saying all you folks watched this season for no reason. The season was invalid, and we have no national champion because you can't just give Washington the national championship. I guess you can, but it just seems so ridiculous. And that they would be the national champion. They were the ones standing that had not lost a game, that played Michigan, of course, at the end. So are they the national champion? And yeah, it would just be so fraudulent in terms of evaluating competition that, yeah, George, I agree. I just don't think it's going to happen, even though if you deem cheating to be cheating, then those should be the consequences. Player 1 says the reason Harbaugh cheated, horrible multiple season records, wanting back in the NFL, and no faith in his staff or team. Oh, Tukey G's hitting below the belt. I'm curious to see what all of you are saying, because again, there's not a whole lot new here. We knew all this. I've produced reams of live streams and videos on this topic, explained myself much better than I just did about how I see this. And do I think, now let me put the premise on this. It shouldn't matter what I think, and it doesn't matter what I think. But do I think that Michigan would have won a national championship without this cheating? Yes, I do. I do believe that they would have won the national championship without this cheating, because we saw how they played after Connor Stalions was removed. But that shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter. And Michigan fans, I understand you're in a tough spot and you're not going to acknowledge anything. And I'm not talking to every Michigan fan. I'm stroking with a large brush here. This is a large brush stroke on Michigan fans to say, not everyone, but obviously you're going to defend your team and your program to the hilt and say none of it mattered and we didn't cheat or it's so inconsequential it doesn't even matter and all those things. I really don't understand that line of thinking, but that's how fans are so ingrained in their team that it's funny to see people who are Michigan fans talking about other fans coping. You know, we're sitting on an hour. And again, maybe something will come to me and I will have something more to say about this at a certain point. But unfortunately, here at the Voice of College Football, in a position where I really don't prep for any of this stuff anymore. And so I find out about it on the fly while we are all together. Again, we've got a Thursday night show coming up with members only. So that is our late night call-in show this week with YouTube and Patreon members. So please join and we will have a good time together. I want to find out from all of you what you would like to see here at the Voice of College Football. And otherwise, you guys have a brilliant day. Hopefully it's as nice there as it is here. Go enjoy some weather. Forget about Michigan's cheating. And we will see you back here on Tuesday at 4. We also have the Iowa show at 5:30. We've got a full slate of Voice of College Football shows that you can see here on the schedule that we provide each and every day. Great to see y'all. You have a great day. Nobody can hear me because something got muted there. Oh, you missed all that. Uh-oh. All right. I guess I'm going to have to restate all that. So, Drufus, I basically said, here we go again. Michigan cheated to win the national championship. Yes, Michigan did cheat. They won a national championship. Those two things can be exclusive or they can be inclusive. We don't know. We will never know. We cannot play the season without cheating. The cheating existed and the season was played and Michigan won the national championship. Would they have won a national championship without cheating? I don't know. I stated a few minutes ago that I think they probably would have. But what I think shouldn't matter. They should be held accountable for cheating. They cheated. This is what happens sometimes in these situations where there's a side in the wrong, and then there's everyone else. And the side in the wrong gets so defensive about it that they lash out and they try to flip the conversation and put everyone else on the defensive. Nobody else should be on the defensive here. Nobody else did anything wrong. And if you're a Michigan fan, that doesn't make you a bad person. This is another thing that gets misconstrued in sports fandom. You have no responsibility about what Michigan did. That's like when Urban Meyer would do stupid things. People would come on here and throw his name at me like I'm his keeper or something. Like, what do I care? The guy's arguably the greatest coach of all time, but he's a knucklehead who does stupid things. I'm not defending him. Like, we need to stop being so defensive about our teams, and we also have to stop attaching our self-worth and our self-value to a college football team. If your college football team sucks, if you're a Purdue fan, if you're a Stanford fan, if you're a Rutgers fan, whoever, that has no bearing on you. You can be a successful person. You can be a kind person. You can be a great person. You can be an intelligent person. You can be the greatest person on the planet to be around. Or if your team wins a national championship, your team's amazing, they're dominant, they're elite. That's really nothing to be proud about. It has nothing to do with you other than you support your team, probably. You watch the games, so we support the sport. But I have never understood the self-worth that is determined by how good somebody's college football team is. And therefore, when they cheat, Ohio State's done some unscrupulous things through the years. And you know what I did? Oh, penalize them. If it's true, penalize them. That's what should happen. Go right ahead. Just my commentary on life as a college football fan. And Moose says, who admitted they cheated? Good thing that in life, we don't need criminals to admit anything. That's the good thing about evidence, research, investigation. We don't need the bad guys to admit to anything because typically, you know what? The same person who doesn't have the character to abide by the rules isn't going to be the person that's going to admit to it. So fortunately, we don't need to have anyone admit to it. It's been proven. The only thing that needs to be proven is that did it have an impact on the season, which I don't, again, going back to an earlier conversation, I don't entirely, I understand that point. I understand that side. But if I'm playing a 5-year-old and pick up basketball outside and I don't need any advantages whatsoever, and I beat the heck out of the kid 21-0, let's say, but I cheated. I didn't need to, but I still did it just because I thought he might score a point and I would be embarrassed. So I cheated. There is a legitimate school of thought that says you take away the win. You don't say, the cheating really didn't matter and the cheating really didn't change things. All right. So it is good to see everyone again here at the Voice of College Football. Just had to respond to that. We will see you back here Tuesday at 4 Eastern. Bring a friend or two or 50 with you, and maybe we can continue the discussion on Michigan football and their chances of beating Western Michigan or Central Michigan, whomever it was. I think it was Western in week 3. Oh, you know what? I'm back and forth because I did find some pleasure in posting this. Let's see if I can find it. Is that me there? We didn't get to this deal. And some folks seem to enjoy this. as well. So I posted this on social media. Simply stating here that Michigan has established the premier program in college football for on-the-job head coaching experience and training for assistant coaches. They have mastered this skill. It's an intern program in and of itself. It's remarkable how they have done this. They have basically put together a program in which they get on-the-job training for their assistant coaches to become head coaches. They've been remarkable at this. This is going to be 8 games now in the last 3 seasons in which they have had a coach suspended and therefore have established an on-the-job training program for their coaches. All right, Sharice, Jason, George, and others, good to see you. We'll be back here at the Voice of College Football on Tuesday, and I do not believe I'm going to duck back in here, but who knows?